Hey friends, and welcome back to Susie on the Farm. I'm Susie, and in today we are going to do 3 thrift flips using 4 of the new fusion colors. These colors go so perfectly together. There are 3 others that I'm not going to use in this video, and 2 of them are purple if y'all are into that. But for today's video, we're going to use these 4. And I picked up this silver tray at the thrift store. I actually got this one pretty cheap. It was very tarnished, which is kind of odd because thrift stores love to overprice tarnish silver these days. But I am going to use the color Acadia Pear on this one, and this is a beautiful green. It puts me in the mind of Carriage House, but has more of a green tint, where Carriage House seems to dry a little bit on a gray tint. But if you've never used Fusion all-in-one paint, you've got to try it. It goes on like butter, so smooth. I haven't pre-treated this silver at all. I'm doing 2 coats. You can't see any brush streaks. It has a self-leveling in it, and it just is so easy and so nice to paint with. So I'm doing 2 coats, front and back, but I did leave the handles and I left the feet in the silver color. After my 2 coats of paint was completely dry, I got the birds, part of the birds, out of the Yuletide transfer from the Iron Orchid Designs Holiday Collection. I love all these transfers, and I'm going to be putting them on so many things. But these birds were perfect for this little tray. I did have to trim off a few of the leaves on the bottom just to make it fit, and then I'm just placing it where I want it, rubbing it down with my finger, and I'm using the tool that comes with all of the IOD transfers to rub until the design is transferred onto my project. Fusion paint does have a built-in sealer, so there's no need to seal it before you do this. I did do a sealer after. I did just a matte clear sealer, and this is so cute, y'all. Look how cute this tray turned out. For our next project, I can't help but pick these up at the thrift store. I paid less than $1 for this one because it was half price, and this one's a little taller and smaller than the other ones that I usually pick up, so I like the shape of it. I have just cleaned this up, and then I am going to use Tapestry. I have already used this color and absolutely love it. This is one of the new fusion colors, and I'm going to give this wood 2 coats of this paint. And you would think this old stained wood you would have to put a primer on, but Fusion does have the built-in primer as well, and bleed through is so unlikely, so I just went for it, and no bleed through after 2 coats on that old wood. So now I'm just taking some 220 grit sandpaper and lightly distressing all the edges, and I'm going to use some of the gold foil transfers on this. This is actually from the Etiquettes pack in the last IOD release. I couldn't really find anything in the new tinsel that I liked for this, and this was perfect. I wanted to use just some random of that, I think it's French script that's in the Etiquette, and then this long one fit perfectly into it. And this is the first time I'm trying the gold transfers over a light paint color, and I think that I love it so much more than over a dark black or blue. It looks so almost subtle but very fancy on this tapestry color. So I'm just putting some script here on the bottom, and then I'll put the long one on the top. These are candle holders, obviously, so you could put a taper candle in it. I like to just style them with some greenery, maybe not even hang them, just kind of lean them or lay them in your vignette. And this one turned out so cute. I did seal over these transfers with a matte clear sealer as well. Reminder, I have learned with these gold foil transfers that you really don't need to rub hard, just very lightly. I know y'all can't tell how hard I'm rubbing here, but you can feel it. Just very lightly rub and raise, and then you can always lay it back down if you see a spot that you missed. And I also just use my fingertip to burnish these foil transfers instead of using the backing. This one turned out great. And I was thinking a bottle brush tree. Again, if I had any in the store, I would show y'all. I'm going to get my Christmas out after tomorrow's Whatnot show. Then I'm going to get all my Christmas out. So I'll have some bottle brush trees then. For our final project today, I picked up, I think I have 2 or 3 of these little hanger photos, and they all have a tub on them, and I really don't have a need for anything like that in a bathroom. But I am obsessed with the autumn cottage mold that just came out. I love that little pumpkin in there. He is so vintage and so cute. I am using my clear resin. This is the resin that does take 12 to 24 hours to set up, but it's really easy to use. You just mix half and half, stir them up really well, and pour them into your mold. Don't be like me. Wear gloves and possibly even a mask. Now, I like to just pour these up right before I'm leaving because the smell in the studio can get a little rough too. So I just always pour up my resin before I leave for the night, and then they're ready the next morning when I come back in, usually. So this is the next morning, and I've got the mold out there, but I did want to use a few of the leaves as well. I'm going to use clay with them so I can kind of mold them to lay over the pumpkin how I want. So I've dusted my molds with some cornstarch. That just helps release them. And then I'm just going to use my fingers to push the clay in and clean up the backs. And the IOD molds have this super neat micro rim that makes doing that so easy. And once you get used to it, it's just... you could just do it in your sleep. So, and then I just flip it over, use gravity to turn them out. I used just the small leaf, and I was going to use that little wheat, but I ended up not using it. But that was for the top of the pumpkin. And then I got a couple of oak leaves from the Oak Leaves and Acorns mold. And I'm just going to make them like they're laid, like they've just floated in the wind and landed on the pumpkin. Once I finally got my placement sort of figured out, which I end up changing it again, I am going to paint this plaque while those molds are setting up just a little bit. And we are going to use the new color Iron Clay. Y'all, this is so beautiful. It looks just like terracotta when you're finished with it. And again, the fusion paint goes on so smooth. I did 2 coats over the mold and the little back plate. So normally I would attach my clay molds and then paint them. And normally I would wait and let the clay set up a little bit more before I paint them. But I did not have the time today. So I am painting these molds while they're wet and before I glue them on. I'm using the new color called Elmwood. This is like a beautiful muted brown gray, and I am just very, very gingerly. I do not want to mess up the details on my leaves, so just very softly painting 2 coats of these on here. I can touch them up a little bit more after we glue them on, but before I glue them on, I wanted to put some vintage textures behind the pumpkin on the plaque there, and I wanted to use the stone gray ink, but I misplaced, or actually I think what I did do is picked it up and thought it was black and added black ink over it, so now I have 2 blacks. So anyway, I made me a new stone gray. This is a very subtle, if you don't want like really stark black, it's just a more subtle color, and I love using it on the texture stamp. So once that ink dried just a little bit, while they're still wet and pliable, I'm going to go ahead and use the Type Bond Quick and Thick and glue my leaves down. Again, I changed where they are, but we're still going with the wind blew the oak leaves on the ground, and they landed near the pumpkin. So I got them glued on, and then I think I dry brushed a little bit. Oh, I did have to touch up some edges, and I also decided to paint the stem in Elmwood. I think I did dry brush some of the tapestry over the leaves, but it didn't bring out the details like I wanted to. So I am going to dark wax that. But before we do that, I picked up this little trinket box at a yard sale a couple of years ago, and I am constantly pulling little things out of here, and it's still got so much in it. But I remember these pretty little corner pieces, and they look brass, and they kind of match the handles there, or the hook. So I'm just going to hot glue these on the corner, and then like I said, I'm going to go over everything with the Fusion Aging Wax, and all that wax will stay down in the details of the leaves and the pumpkins and just make it look super vintage and really awesome. But before we do that, I decided to make a little tag, and I cut just a small piece of drop cloth, a clean piece of drop cloth, and I'm going to stamp the word autumn on it using the apothecary label stamp. This has 4 fonts of small letters, so this is a perfect one to use in your junk journaling, scrapbooking, or any kind of smalls. So I'm just going to stamp the word autumn on here, and then I'm going to use one of my little wood tags to kind of have a template, cut out a little tag. And but before we put it on there, we're going to do the dark wax, and then I'm going to use another little trinket thing to hot glue the tag onto this plaque. And this, at first, this one had the most elements and the most thing I had to do, so it took me longer, and I had a few little struggles with it, but in the end, this one came out to be my favorite project today. I love this color. I don't want to go crazy and just paint everything to make it look like terracotta, but it is so awesome. All the new Fusion colors are on my website if y'all want to give a look at those, and at the end of this video, I will show them all to you as well. So I got this all waxed up, and then I just used a dry paper towel to wipe back any excess. And if there was any big clumps somewhere, I used a small little paintbrush to kind of pull them out and wipe that back. And you can also use clear wax over it if you can't wipe enough back with your paper towel. If you'll use a clear wax brush, it'll work as kind of an eraser for the dark wax. Thank y'all so much for watching today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed these projects using the new Fusion colors. I love all three of these projects. Not gonna lie, I'm obsessed with them. And I love how beautiful this collection of colors looks together. So, so pretty. I'll show y'all all 7 of the colors here in just a minute. Don't forget about my Whatnot sale tonight. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, all of the vintage things. I hope to see y'all there. We get to chat a lot there, and it's so, so, so much fun. There's a link for the $15 credit. Don't forget to sign up for Whatnot if you haven't already. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you again later.